Hello, bookish friends. So today I am here to talk to you all about the audiobooks that I listened to during the month of May. Now, I listened to 6 audiobooks, so I'm going to jump right in. But if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. So thank you so much for being here. I am impressed with how many books I listened to during the month of May, and I think part of this is because mowing season has started. I don't know about you, but I have a pretty large yard. It takes me like 3.5 to 4 hours to mow my yard. So I got like those headphones that block out the sound of my mower, but that are Bluetooth and they connect to my phone. So I listen to my book. So I have to mow like every week. So I am getting through a decent amount of books just through mowing my lawn, in addition to like the normal times I listen. So I think that helped a lot because 6 books is pretty awesome. But this is part 2 of my May wrap up. So if you didn't check out my part 1, that's all the physical books that I read plus 1 book that I read on an online platform. And those books are the first book in the Witcher series, Echo North by Joanna Ruth Mayer, Blanca and Roja by Anna Marie McLemore, or Miclemore, I'm not sure. And then Dry by Neil and Jared Schusterman. And then the other book was Lore Olympus, and it's a webtoon. So if you're interested in knowing more about my thoughts on that, please check out my part 1 video. So I started off by listening to Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone, and so this was another book box pick that I finally got to during the month of May, and I loved this. 5 out of 5. The audiobook was absolutely amazing. So we follow a young girl. When this starts off, she's 13 and her father is suffering from PTSD. So her father, Ernst Albright, was in the Vietnam War and he was actually a POW. And so he suffered some serious trauma and now he's trying to deal with this. And so what he ends up doing is he decides that Alaska's like the safe place for him and his family to go. And so they pack up and they move. Ernst has a lot of demons that he's dealing with as a result of his PTSD, and he is abusive. And so you have Lenny, her mother, and him kind of like living together, and the dark like brings out the worst in him. And if you know Alaska, during the winter, you have like 16 hours of darkness. And so a lot of things happen. Lenny spends all of her teenage years here, and it is a beautifully written story. I absolutely loved this. You have a young girl dealing with an abusive father. You have a young girl watching like her mom be silent and not like stand up for herself. And then you also have a young girl just trying to like figure out her own path in life and, you know, maybe fall in love for the first time and try to graduate and live in this wilderness that she's never even been exposed to before. So you have a lot of different elements happening. I'm definitely going to be putting this in my classroom library. It does have some abuse in it, so like that could be a trigger, just so you know. But this was absolutely amazing. Kristen Hanna definitely did it again. I love her as a writer, and 5 out of 5. Definitely check this out if you haven't already. So I ended up like binge listening to a series. I love the Lady Holmes series. So I will leave a picture. I listened to books 1, 2, and 3 of the Lady Sherlock Holmes series by Sherry Thomas. I loved these audiobooks. I'm sad that my library doesn't have the 4th one, but I put like a request in, so hopefully they will. But this is a gender switched story. So Lady Holmes is obviously the Sherlock Holmes. It's Charlotte Holmes, and she is okay, so she's determined to like live on her own. She doesn't want to get married. She has no interest in that. And so she makes a deal with her father that when she turns 28, if she has not gotten married, if he will like support her to go to school so that she can kind of like live an independent life. And he agrees. So when she turns 28, he reneges on his promise. And so she's outraged. And so she ends up going and giving away the one thing that would make her like able to get a suitor. She gives away her V-card. And so she is like ostracized from society, and her parents are going to go like lock her up in the country, but she runs away. And she ends up meeting a Mrs. Watson, who kind of like takes her in, and so together they end up coming up with like her as a detective. Now, because she's a woman, she's not going to be accepted as society. She pretends like she has a brother in the back room, and he is able to like use his deductive thinking in order to like solve all these cases, and she's like his mouthpiece. It's great. I absolutely loved it. I mean, there are definitely some flaws in it, don't get me wrong, but I just really enjoyed all of these audiobooks. So I gave the first one a 4 out of 5. The second one fell into like that second book slump a little bit where it was kind of just like setting up the third one. So that one wasn't quite as good. So I gave that one a 3 out of 5. And then the third one, I love. This was definitely my favorite. I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was a great story. And I don't know, I loved it. So if you like, Sherlock Holmes' stories and you like mystery, then definitely check out this one. So then the next book that I listened to is an extremely hyped book on BookTube right now, and I realized why. It definitely deserves to be hyped. It is absolutely amazing. I don't think I liked it as much as the first book I read by this author, but I did really enjoy this. This was another 5 out of 5 read for me, and that would be, if you haven't guessed already, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Whew! This audiobook is the first time that I ever listened to a full cast audio, and let me tell you what, that experience was amazing. If you haven't listened to a full cast audio, what are you waiting for? I don't know what I was waiting for. I absolutely loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. So there definitely are some flaws, but this was such a good story that I don't care about the flaws. I'm overlooking it. 5 out of 5. I did not like how I feel like some of the other side characters were like interchangeable. Like, I can't really tell you the difference between some of the other band members. So there could have been a little bit more development there. And I also expected more from the ending. I was a little let down by that, but I loved everything else. So this is not one I would ever put into my classroom library. This deals a lot with sex, drugs, and alcohol, and drug abuse and drug addiction, and so just like keep that in mind. There's a fair amount of sexy time too, so definitely not one that I've put inside my classroom library, but as an adult, highly recommend. Loved it. So this takes place during like the 70s, and you have Daisy Jones, who is an aspiring singer-songwriter, and then you have the Six, which is a band, and they end up kind of like joining forces, and it's like their story as to why they fell apart. Highly recommend. 5 out of 5. Great, great, great story. And then the last book I listened to, which was a middle grade book, and I had no intentions of picking this up. I don't even know like what sparked me to pick this up, but it was there. I feel like I was on such a high from Daisy Jones and the Six, and I wasn't like looking for another adult. I needed something that was very, very different. And so this was the Aru Shah by Roshani Chatsky. This is part of like the Rick Riordan Presents series. This is book number 1. And I thought this was really cute. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I'm not the market audience for this, so I understand that completely. But I did think that the narrator, Aru, was a little whiny, like a little annoying and whiny. Like, she was like annoying how whiny she was. And I've read other middle grade books where I didn't feel the protagonist was annoying, but she annoyed the crap out of me. So that definitely like brought it down. There was a fair amount of action with this, which I thought was pretty cool, but I did feel like the story kind of like dragged a little bit. Like, I wanted it to be like a little bit of a quicker paced read. Like, for a middle grade book, this audiobook was still like 9.5 hours, which I feel like is pretty long for a middle grade audiobook. So definitely wasn't my favorite, but a really cute story. I'm probably not going to continue in the series. I'm not really invested. Maybe I will, like maybe I'll decide to pick it up, but I'm not. I don't know. It was okay. So I'm glad I listened to it though. It was my first experience with Roshani Chatsky, and I'm excited to read her Gilded Wolves book, which I have, but 3 out of 5. So those are the 6 audiobooks that I read during the month of May. Let me know if you've read any of the ones that I read in the comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts were. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and I'll be back with more bookish videos soon. As always, keep reading!